Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Gopi Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, we've got a really long purport in this one. So what I'd like to do is just do the English on these, and then we'll do just the translation for the verse. Together, please. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sri Anjali, the author. By regular attendance of the classes on the Bhagavatam, by regular service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. Loving service unto the personality of Godhead, whose praise with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. So, would someone like to start us out with the verse, the translation of the verse? Together? Okay. O my Lord Sri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahma, the original living being. By him, even the greatest sages and demigods are placed into illusion of the illusory representations of water, sea, and fire, land, sea, and water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. Therefore, meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representations. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. So the entire Bhagavatam now, from this point forward, is just going to expand this out. This is actually a description of reality, of all reality. So anything that exists, or can be, is included in this description. I just want to, before we go to the section of the purport that we'll do today, I just want to point out a couple of things, because in this next portion of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is going to apply the absolute truth that includes everything. So, what do you think he means by by him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire, or land is seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, I'm going to rearrange this, only because of him do the material universes appear factual, although they are unreal, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of material nature. Does anybody want to expound on that? Are you going to?
No, it's like
the question is, what do you think is meant by him putting the sages, by him, only by him, are the sages and demigods put into illusion? And that also, because of him, the material universes appear factual, although they are unreal.
Does it say factual or illusion?
Say that again?
Does it say factual? The universes are not factual or illusion? That's an illusion. It's an illusion.
It says that they appear factual, but
Okay.
they are unreal. They are elusive.
Well, our understanding is that the material world isn't unreal, it's temporary. And illusions, the illusion of like land on water. I mean, water and land both exist, they're real. But so an illusion, they're an illusion, but it doesn't mean it's not real land and water. And like our understanding is that the material world is temporary, but it's real.
Yes.
It's not, it's an illusion. But just because it's an illusion doesn't mean it's not real illusion. It's an illusion, but it's factual. It's real, but it's temporary.
Has anybody ever seen a mirage in the desert? You know what I'm talking about? Or what kind of mirage have you seen? On the road, yeah, where it looks like there might be water, or even seeing the heat rise up. So a mirage in the desert, this is the analogy that Srila Prabhupada uses over and over again. A mirage in the desert, it looks like out in the desert there's water, but there's actually no water there. Water exists, obviously, but there's none in the desert. And there is something there. There's energy. So you've got the heat rising up out of the sand. You've got the sunlight reflecting upon the heat rays that are coming up off the sand, and it makes it look like there's water there. So there is something there, but you're seeing a mirage, an illusion. It takes on an appearance other than what is factually there. So unlike some impersonalists, where they say that the material world is unreal in the sense that it just doesn't exist at all, it's a figment of your imagination, whose imagination they don't explain. Because if nothing exists, then nothing exists. But we say that it's Krishna's energy. This is an expansion of Krishna's energy. Everything is an expansion of Krishna's energy. Everything that exists because of him, like the verse is saying. But the material world is illusory. In other words, his energy, he transforms his energy in such a way that it takes on an appearance that is different from what it actually is. So if we weren't illusioned, we would see Krishna's energy. But instead, we see everything as separate from him. In fact, he says in the Gita that anything that you see that is separate from me, know that to be my illusory energy. In other words, you're seeing a mirage. Does this make sense? That this is contemporarily, this is seen in the movie The Matrix. Does anybody remember the scene where Neo actually has his self-realization, as it were? Does anybody want to describe that, please? Go ahead, Prabhu.
Is that the scene where all the zeros and ones are kind of stripping down and
Yeah.
Reality emerges as more organic or less mechanic?
So what before appeared to be like a real world with forms and things and so forth winds up being just computer code, ones and zeros. And what happens when he has that realization that it's all just ones and zeros? What happens to him?
Ability to choose.
Yeah, and he transcends. He gets the ability to choose to do whatever he wants to do. So he can fly, he can overcome the, what do you call those guys?
Agents.
The agents, Mr. Smith. He's able to completely overcome the agents and transcend. He transcends the matrix. In other words, he's able to not be completely bound by the appearance of all the illusory forms of things and circumstances and the people. He winds up being able to see. So that's bhakti yoga, and that's what's being described here. That's what's being described here in this verse, is that in a real sense, we're living in a matrix. We're living in a reality that is an illusion. It is a mirage. It's real. It's energy. It's there, but it's taking on an appearance other than what it actually is, Krishna's energy. So one who is completely self-realized and on the highest platform actually doesn't see illusory energy at all. They see Krishna everywhere. They see everything connected to Krishna. And therefore, even like the Uttama Adhikari, who's the highest level of self-realization, they have to actually bring their consciousness down slightly into the Madhyama, or the middle plateau of self-realization, so that they can give instruction and preach to others. Otherwise, they can't see others' faults. They can't see the faults of people because they're completely transcended the illusion of materiality. So that's what's being described here. And the whole Bhagavatam from Canto 1 to Canto 9 is a laying out. There's many things in there. Of course, the process of bhakti is in there, and all of these wonderful stories of sages. And in Canto 1, of course, we have the final pastimes of Krishna and his departing from this world. But the first 9 cantos primarily are about what Prabhupada calls the categories of existence. This is what we call Sankhya philosophy, which is a description of reality. And so it's unpacking this verse, telling us about Krishna's original form, all of his expansions, the spiritual world as opposed to the material world, and how the material world forms from the Lord's energies. And it unpacks it in great detail so that by the time we get to the Lord's pastimes, we can actually understand that this is not an ordinary boy. He looks like an ordinary blue boy, and he looks like he's kind of a womanizer, but actually he's the Supreme Lord. And while he's in the forests of Vrindavan, or when he's in the arms of his mother, or running around the yard trying not to be tied up to a mortar, a grinding mortar, he's actually holding all of reality in existence. And through his various expansions and plenary portions, and through the demigods, he's making everything happen. So here's the rub, is that the material world, it's mentioned in Canto 11 several times, that the material world is taking on forms based upon our individual and collective desiring. Collective desiring. In other words, you're grouped into planetary systems based upon everybody that's on the material level has a similar matrix of desires and past deeds and actions and thoughts that have brought them to this material planetary system, right? Those that are in the heavenly planets, same thing. Individually and collectively, they had a certain set of deeds and thoughts and desires that after they passed from their body, it drew them based upon their karma to a particular planetary system. So we're here, and in this particular planetary system, and then individually having the lives that we're having on a material level because of our past desires and deeds, and whatever we held in our consciousness at the time of death in our past life, that brought us into the current life. And so we're having experiences not willy-nilly. Life isn't something that's happening to us. We are actually cooperating every step of the way, even if you are not aware of it. You're drawing into your life all of your experiences by what you choose to focus on. Bhakti is the process of learning how to focus on Krishna as the ultimate reality and coming to a place where you see the ones and zeros, or where you actually see only Krishna's energy. And as a result of that experience, even as you begin to awaken to that experience, you begin to transcend. This is what we call the platform of liberation, where you actually rise up above material degradation, and you begin to be able to control your senses, and you begin to be able to see the Lord's hand in everything that unfolds in your life. You actually begin to see how your choices are reflected back to you in the experiences that you're having. Has anybody experienced that as they begin to practice, or as maybe after a long time of practicing bhakti, you begin to see the connection between your choices and desires and either being enslaved to the material energy or the Lord giving you a sense of transcendence over it where you can control. I would think that everybody here has begun to experience some level of transcendence. Is it not? Or you wouldn't be here if it wasn't the case. You wouldn't be here. So everybody here has experienced to one degree or another liberation, where you've been able to control your senses and you get a taste from the Shastra, you get a taste from the Maha Mantra, from Kirtan, from your service, and that's drawn you to stay here as a resident. And so the process of bhakti is just going to increase that experience. And as long as you do not quit, my spiritual master always says this to his disciples, just never quit. Never, ever, ever quit. Just keep chanting, keep serving, keep associating with the devotees, keep hearing Prabhupada's books, keep attending Mangalarti, keep doing the things that we do in the temple communities, and never leave. I mean, you may move out, but never leave the association of the devotees. Keep on keeping on. And you will, ipso facto, come to the place where you see the ones and zeros. You want to, please, Arisham.
I saw this about never quit. I saw this pharmacy yesterday and had a sign on it about quitting smoking. It said, every try counts.
Every try
So even if you
counts.
fail,
Yes, yes.
still keep trying.
Haribol. Yeah, you just keep on trying, keep on trying. Krishna has seen all of your efforts. And even though you may look at yourself and see, oh man, I had terrible japa today. Well, how do you know it was terrible japa? Krishna could have allowed you to experience all kinds of things that caused you to exercise your will in such a way that you had to put forth a great effort. That's a victory. That's a victory, and it's purifying your heart. Bhakti is infallibly effective, regardless of how you feel about your own exercise of hearing chanting and remembering the Lord and serving the Lord. As long as you're sincere and you remember that every attempt, every try counts. Jonathan, we are going to get to the purport.
Just really quick about like leveling up in your life because of the association of devotees. Something I feel like everybody can probably relate to. It's just anytime like I revisit my old hometown or old, my old life, and people from the past, or just kind of in an area that's a place where I'd been before, and I think about what my life was based on and what my motives were based on and what my activities were back then, and just like what I have today in my life, being at Christian House and in Gainesville and Alachua County. And I just want to say, I feel that same way, that like, as long as I stay in Alachua County, like my life will be better.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but it is very, very possible to go backwards, but I still don't think that means that we lose the progress we made, but we definitely can descend down some.
Yes, you can. You can bring your consciousness off of that Krishna conscious platform and begin to participate in material activities again and gratify your senses in a way that is illicit in one way or another. But you never lose the ground that you've gained in bhakti, because it's spiritual and enacted on the spiritual platform. It's eternal. So when you return to it, you pick up where you left off. but I have to say you suffer because I've done that before. Been there, done that, and it causes tremendous suffering. The more that you have had your consciousness opened up to transcendence, to Krishna and the things of Krishna, you can't unsee those things. So when you do try to return, it's misery on a level that you've never experienced before. So don't do it. Trust me. Keep on keeping on. Okay, let's read the purport now. We're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarup of the Lord. We won't be able to do the whole thing, obviously. This is an enormous purport. But we can read a little bit and make some comments. Jonathan. Yeah, please.
Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarupa of the Lord manifested by his eternal potency, and this potency is distinguished from the external potency which has manifested the cosmic world which is in our experience. Srila Vyasadeva makes a clear distinction between the two in this sloka. Srila Vyasadeva says herein that the manifested internal potency is real, whereas the external manifested energy in the form of material existence is only temporary and illusory, like the mirage in the desert.
There it is.
In the desert mirage, there is no actual water. There is only the appearance of water. Real water is somewhere else. The manifested cosmic creation appears as reality, but reality of which this is but a shadow. It is in the spiritual world. Absolute truth is in the spiritual sky, not the material sky. In the material sky, everything is relative truth. That is to say, one truth depends on something else. The cosmic creation results from incarnation of the three modes of nature.
Interaction.
I'm sorry. The cosmic creation results from interaction of the three modes of nature, and the temporary manifestations are so created as to present an illusion of reality to the bewildered mind of the conditioned soul who appears in so many species of life, including the higher demigods like Brahma, Indra, Chandra, and so on. In actuality, there is no reality in the manifested world. There appears to be reality, however, because of the true reality which exists in the spiritual world, where the personality of Godhead externally exists with his transcendental paraphernalia.
So ditto. That's what we just said, basically. Someone else like to pick up? Go ahead, Bruce.
The chief engineer of a complicated construction does not personally take part in the construction, but he knows every nook and corner because everything is done under his direction. He knows everything about the construction, both directly and indirectly. Similarly, the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme engineer of the cosmic creation, knows every nook and corner, although affairs are being carried out by demigods. Beginning from Brahma down to the insignificant ant, no one is independent in material creation. The hand of the Lord is seen everywhere. All material elements, as well as all spiritual sparks, emanate from him only. And whatever is created in this material world is but the interaction of two energies, the material and the spiritual, which emanate from the absolute truth. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. A chemist can manufacture water in the chemical laboratory by mixing hydrogen and oxygen. But in reality, the living entity works in the laboratory under the direction of the Supreme Lord. And the materials with which he works are also supplied by the Lord. The Lord knows everything directly and indirectly, and he is cognizant of all minute details, and he is fully independent. He is compared to a mine of gold, and the cosmic creations in so many different forms are compared to objects made from gold, such as gold rings, necklaces, and so on. The gold ring and the gold necklace are qualitatively one with the gold in the mine, but quantitatively the gold in the mine is different. Therefore, the absolute truth is simultaneously one and different. Nothing is absolutely equal with the absolute truth, but at the same time, nothing is independent from the absolute truth.
So in other words, he's kind of expanding out what the text just said, that everything is made of the Lord's energies. That you have the Supreme Lord in his original form, and all reality expands out from him, whether it be his avatars, his expansions, his plenary portions, etc., or the material world and our forms, and actually on a spiritual level we expand from him, and then our material illusory forms also expand from him in his material energy. So in the real sense, there's nothing but Krishna. There's nothing but Krishna. We're swimming and walking, living and moving and having our being in a sea of Krishna, Krishna's energy. And yet, everything except for his original form, his Swarup, his original personal form, like you see in the images, in the deities, everything is also not him. So, yes, Carly. I'm sorry, Swarup means the original form. It's the original form. So in other words, each of us have a Swarup also. It's our original identity and spiritual form in the spiritual world, just like the Lord has. Swarup, S-V-A-R-U-P-A. Swarup, sorry, sometimes I forget, not everybody is. Yes. Microphone.
By transcendence is your constitutional position and form revealed to you? And did Prabhupada ever say what his was, or did he remain? Like you would look at, I think you said you would look at me different if you knew.
Yeah,
who
that's
I
right.
really
He
was.
never revealed it. But I think it's obvious that he knew, because he came from the spiritual world, but in another sense, as an Uttama Adhikari, as one who was on, he's a eternal associate of the Lord, who came from the spiritual world in order to bring us everything that he brought us. But in a sense, he had to lower his consciousness to a certain point so that he could actually do the work that he did. But no, he never revealed it. And yes, by the process of bhakti yoga, we eventually, the only thing that's keeping us from knowledge of our original constitution is the material covering, the subtle body and the gross body. And those are melted away by the process of bhakti. So the progressive unfoldment that happens as a result of devotional service is happening, that progressive unfoldment is happening because gradually the illusory covering is being melted away. Eventually, if you don't quit, that illusory covering is gone. And then you have knowledge of your original constitution. But it doesn't just like happen at a moment, it's progressive. But that's a very, very, very high state of consciousness. And we don't necessarily get there this side of going through the process of dying in a Krishna conscious state. Yes. Good questions, by the way.
So he's the causeless cause. He's the beginning of all causes. So the body that we've taken on now is a series of causal activities.
Yep.
Stemming from activity in the spiritual world. They're
What do you
both
mean by
happening.
activity in the spiritual world?
Let's say I'm a flower, and then I made a choice as a flower that just somehow led to like a cascading event to me to have this body.
You lost me at the flower.
I'm lost to begin with. Are both connected and happening simultaneously, or is my
Well,
position?
the soul, let's put it this way, the soul is always, always, always active. So it's you as a spirit soul that's participating in life. Shri Shri Gornitai Ki Jai. It's you as a spirit soul that's participating in life and having the experience. There's not two persons in you, a spiritual one and a material one. There's just you. And it's like being tar and feathered, let's put it that way. Underneath the tar and feathers is your real body, the body that you have here. But when you're tar and feathered, you look like a tar and feather person walking around. And you can even begin to think of yourself, oh yes, I'm a tar and feather being, right? And you get lost in that experience. What needs to happen is the tar and feathers just need to be removed. And it's like that. You as a spirit soul are the one that's living and having the experience. You're the one that's choosing, and you're the one that's experiencing. But you're doing it through tar and feathers, through an illusory material covering that includes your mind, your intelligence, the false ego, which is the sense of I am this body and I am this person that I see in the mirror and experience in my mind. But in actuality, you're something that's untouched by that. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Yes. Okay. You sure? Sure, go ahead. Okay. Did you have something? Okay. I'm going to stop there and I want to just open it up for more questions, discussion. Carly.
So I have a question about the translation. There was a name in there, Brahmaji, and I think it was
Lord Brahma.
Oh, Brahmaji and Brahma.
Brahmaji is Brahma. So the G is a term, is like endearment. So I could say Carly G or Nate G. In fact, I do say that, don't I? Nate G or what's that? Or just G. Hey G. Yeah, that's right. And it's saying someone's name with affection, basically. So Brahmaji, that's our precious Brahma. It's kind of what you're saying. Adisham.
And the example of mirage came a few times in this class, and I thought about it. Mirage is not just that which is not, like Maya, definition of Maya. It's actually the opposite. Because you think you see in the water, but what you see is heat. You see the energy of fire. In the same way, material nature, the enjoyment is actually the opposite of enjoyment. It's suffering. It's just, for this example, just relief from suffering, temporary relief. So you think it's that which is not, but actually it's completely opposite.
Yes.
The example of that they would chastise the thieves by submerging in the water, and then he gets the gulp of air, and he thinks it's enjoyment.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Did everybody catch that? You think that you're enjoying on a material level, but you're actually suffering. That the material enjoyment is actually an illusion. It's a mirage. It is the appearance of enjoyment, but it's actually the temporary cessation of misery. Like the man who is pushed under the water, and then when he comes up for air, he thinks he's enjoying. Anyone else?
Is that referencing the water within the fire?
Yeah, the idea there is that we see one of the most common ways we see illusory energy is when there's water, that you see water from heat energy, and fire also, you can see illusory things coming off of fire. It's actually heat energy.
We're staring at the product, not the.
Say that again.
We're illusionary, what we see is the product, we're seeing the effect of it, so we see vapor coming up.
Yeah, the illusion is an effect. That's correct.
There's a quote, Narottam Core, that illustrates what Adisham was saying, how we think these things make us happy, but they actually don't. It's on Narottam Core. Material enjoyments are full of poison, but you consider them pleasing. Do not think of them as a source of happiness, but understand them as distress. Be absorbed in full thought of Govinda, associated with his devotees, and conclude that loving devotional service is the goal of life.
Audible. So Krishna asks us, just think of me. Surrender to me and think of me, and I will deliver you from all sinful reactions. So the key to rising above the material energy, the material illusion, is simply to take our attention off of ourselves and put it onto Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. What I'm worried here is what we read earlier, how even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion. So what is the hope for us? What is the hope for me?
Indeed. Even Brahmaji is placed into illusion. Well, I'm sorry, were you going to say something else?
Yeah, please help me. Give me some hope.
Okay, here comes the hope. So it's useless to try to fix yourself. We're always trying to fix ourselves. If I can just, somehow not think this way or not think that way, or I need to, get rid of those desires. I don't want those desires. I got to get rid of them. Whatever it is, we're always trying to monkey around with our own psychology and consciousness to fix ourselves. Even in our bhakti, we want to okay, I gotta get a grip on this so that I can chant good rounds. But you're putting the cart before the horse. Krishna says, just put your attention on me and surrender to me. And he's the one that actually shields us from the material. He's the one that lifts us up out of the material energy. Surrender is not an act of subjugation. It's not an act of coming under the heel of the Lord. It's an act of actually coming to his lotus feet in dependence. Surrender is an act of dependence. Surrender is coming to the Lord and saying, I cannot do this without you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhakti is not a mechanical process. It's not a mechanical science. It's the science of a relationship with Krishna and his devotees. So if we can learn to focus on Krishna, knowing that he's the Supreme Lord, the cause of all causes, and only he can deliver me, only he can fix me. Only he can fix me. Shri Shri Gaunitai ki jai. And so it's the simplicity of hearing the sound vibration of the holy names, getting lost in our service, and learning, using the limbs of bhakti, hearing, chanting, remembering. We have a myriad of ways to take our attention and to get it off of ourselves, our problems and our desires and our issues and our dramas, to take our attention off of ourselves and to simply put it onto the Lord, or even onto his devotees in service, or simply to get lost in our service, out on the campus, serving up, scooping up potatoes and putting them on a plate, or rice and putting it on a plate, and saying a prayer for each person silently in our mind while we give them a smile. This is bhakti. So the idea is to fill up your time. Time is the greatest gift, and time has to be used rightly, or it actually binds us. So to use time to set yourself free is to use your time to focus on Krishna, to offer him devotion. No matter how imperfect it may seem to you, sincere bhakti infallibly acts to purify you from the illusion. And that's how it's like taking a wire hanger and twisting it up. Have you ever tried to straighten out a wire hanger that's been bent? How did that go? You never get it back to the original. In fact, you make it worse, don't you? Sometimes it'll break because you twist it around too much. But the Lord can take that hanger and make it pristine. So we've taken our lives like a wire hanger and we've twisted it up. And the more that we try to fix it, the more bound up it becomes. But the Lord can take the wire hanger of our hearts, the hard knot in the heart, and he can loose it and restore us to perfection. And he will. We just need a little bit of sincerity and a little bit of discipline to focus on him. John. And then we have to stop. Last point.
Well, it wasn't a point, but a question that's on with what we're talking about. With what Advaita had asked. And I was talking to my mom yesterday and telling her that one of the things I appreciate about the philosophy is it's not just necessarily like, okay, we do good pious deeds, and we do good religious acts, and we're have a good heart, and then we go to like spiritual abode and we're good, like it's over with. But is it true that we can kind of also make the decision to do what you had described, like Srila Prabhupada did, and just lower our consciousness to continue to serve and preach? And then if that's so, like after this life, let's say we make some really good advancement, and then we're like, no, but I want to continue to serve and I'm not seeking self-liberation. So,
well, hopefully we're our bhakti includes doing that in the here and now. But after we acquire Vaikuntha Krishna Loka, if one desires that and one is in a state of perfection, it's because that desire is there because the Lord you cooperated with the Lord, and that's a manifestation of the Lord's will for you. So the real answer to the question is it just depends on what the Lord's will is, and that manifests in the living entity's heart as desires. Does that make sense? Does anybody want to add something to that? I mean, certainly Prabhupada came back. He had never been in the material world. But it's also been spoken that Prabhupada's disciples actually have spoken of being able to go where he is. He's gone on somewhere else to preach. And I imagine that any of us, if we so desire, the Lord will allow us to join him wherever he is, in whatever universe. You know, Prabhupada had talked about wanting to go to the hellish planets in his next life to preach. And so, yeah, I mean, for the perfected soul, the soul in its original consciousness, there is no lower planets. Everywhere is Vaikuntha. Everywhere is the spiritual world. We have to stop, I think. Yeah. Is there any more? Adwaita, were you going to say something? No? Jai Prabhupada.
To preach also. So Prabhupada came to the Bowery in New York.
Yeah, the hellish planets.
Coming from India, from Victorian British times to Boweries, similar to that. But
Yes.
yeah,
The Bowery is just below the Patala Loka. Right.
and, yeah, it's often mentioned how oftentimes the Uttamadhikari, most everybody has to step down to Madhamadhikari level, because the Uttamadhikari is that, yeah, they just see everybody as a devote. They don't see everyone as everyone part and parcel. So, but yeah, as you're saying, the one has to step down to Madhamadhikari. Madhamadhikari, then that's where the disconnect, like, okay, this person is practicing Krishna consciousness, this one's not. So yeah, in that sense, it's like a step down. Push is still a that's the step down. It's the change of looking at people. Because you have to.
It's not
yeah,
really
you have to-
becoming conditioned again.
Yeah, like to preach, you have to see wherever everybody is.
I think of, is it Vasudev Datta, who wanted to go to hell to suffer so that everybody else could be saved and go to the spiritual world. That's the heart of pure devotion. And, you know, the Lord was most pleased. Out of all the things that he had asked the devotees, what does everybody desire in their service? And he came to Vasudev Datta, and that's what Vasudev Datta said. I want to go to hell in order that everyone can go to the spiritual world. And the Lord was most pleased. He was pleased with everybody's desire for service, but he was most pleased with that one. So you can't imitate, though. This was a natural, spontaneous desire from the heart of a devotee. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, all the assembled devotees ki, Nittai Gaura Premanandi.
Hare Ram, Hare Ram,